What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the StickTalk podcast. We're here with another Members Lounge episode, and this one's off to an interesting start because Christian is back into his alcoholic tendencies, and so go do your thing.
All right, so we want to get Dave Portnoy on the podcast. We're looking to land bigger guests. He is a minority owner of Happy Dad.
High noon.
Oh my God, you soiled it.
High noon.
You soiled it.
Cut.
So bad.
All right,
How
Dave
are you
is-
going to get him on if you get his company wrong?
Dave's
Just
minority
go,
owner
just
of
go.
High Noon, a hard seltzer beverage company. So, Dave, we want to get you on in Saratoga, Travers Week, in-person podcast, Parting Glass. We'll set it up just like this. You just show up, sit down, talk about the Barstool Fun, talk about Brick Watches, talk about High Noon. We'll have some fun. It'll be a great episode.
Talk about Milton.
Day one of shotgunning a High Noon to get Dave Portnoy on StickTalk.
Spilled it all over
That's
himself.
commitment.
All right.
I give it an 8.2 out of 10.
All right.
So
What's the one goal per view out of 10? The high noon.
It was a tasty High Noon. Made the eyes water. We want to get big guests on the We want to get big guests on the show. I'm willing to put my body on the line to do it.
cook.
So
he just needs an excuse to drink a High Noon.
I was
every
gonna
day.
say.
I'm going to
Christian, why
shotgun
do
a
you
High
get a
Noon every
six-pack
day
this
until
summer?
Dave Portnoy comes on the podcast.
Trying to get in the same room as
Yeah.
Dave.
I
Here's
mean,
a good strategy.
No,
really dump
respect.
that much, did
I feel like that's an interesting
No,
topic
not
to
really.
talk about, though. Getting bigger guests. Because
That's
I know that
what-
we
that's
got
what I
Ty,
see people
which was awesome. We've got a couple other big guests in the works. But from an outsider's perspective, whenever I saw a smaller podcast get a big guest, my whole thing was like, oh, it's complete luck. And just wrote it off as like, oh, they must know somebody, which is true to a certain extent. But you definitely have to put in a ton of work behind the scenes. So I don't know if you guys have any stories, because you guys were running a podcast for, 2 years back in college? Like, what's the key to actually landing a bigger guest that you really, in some way, have no business getting?
I mean, I think
It's a volume game.
if you want to start off, and we could kind of collab on this live by telling the story of how we got Tai Lopez on the podcast, because a lot of people reached out to us after that episode went live, and we're like, how much should you pay to get Tai on? And I'm like,
How much did you pay?
I'm like, I didn't pay him anything, bro. We paid for the episode to be produced, like we paid for every episode to be produced, especially that one. That one was a crazy story, actually. We'll go way back to how we got him on in the first place, but I think we might have already talked about this. But anyways, we were in London for our clientascension event, and Dan was going back and forth on WhatsApp with Ty and his team trying to line up the podcast, and we finally lined it up. And that morning, we were supposed to have our videographer arrive from Miami, and his flight got overbooked, and he didn't end up making it. And so I wake up like a couple hours before we're supposed to do a podcast in person with Ty, and we have no videographer and no podcast equipment. And so we had to, like Dan said, it wasn't luck. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of communications that had to happen to find someone that had all the equipment and the proper setup for us to do that episode. So the behind the scenes of how these things happen, it just makes you appreciate what a lot of these bigger podcasts are able to pull off consistently.
Yeah, and the money's in the follow-up is the moral of the story. Like, the way that we got in touch with him was super random. It was your cousin's boyfriend was an NFT holder of his, and he invited you. I don't know. He's probably trying to make a good impression with the family still. Is a relationship still at that point? But he invited you to the Heat game, which was awesome, and he had an extra ticket because he has a twin who was also an NFT holder, which was pretty funny. And you invited me because
We're twins too.
yeah, because we're twins. We're first cousins.
So obvious.
So obvious.
I don't think
I'm just a little bit bigger, but
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
relax.
Been hitting the gym. I mean, the kid is getting big. But anyways, I digress. I was a huge Miami Heat fan, still am. And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll go to a game and sit in a box with Tai Lopez. And when he was kind of going around and like greeting everybody that was in the box with him, I feel like we just hit it off just because he was asking, like, oh, what's your name? What do you do? I started talking about clientascension, and I started talking about sales team management. And he had some questions for me. And I feel like by my response, he was like, okay, this kid somewhat knows what he's talking about. And it turned out that one of the guys that was working with him was looking into the same program that we're a part of. So I started just sharing some information, some knowledge from right there.
Some knowledge.
And he was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I said we should stay connected. I'm down to hop on a call with his sales director or whoever's helping him out with sales just to provide some free value, build a relationship. Sorry, there's like a fucking fly on my glass. And I got his WhatsApp number. And then I think it was like 4 weeks before the episode, we were all like, yo, we got to get bigger guests on. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but let's just focus on the inputs. Let's reach out to like one guest a week, send him a video message, a voice note, whatever. And I picked Ty the first week just because it was an easy one to hit, just because I already had his WhatsApp. Nothing happened. Didn't get back to me just because it was pretty general. Then it just so happened he had an event in London the same time that we had an event in London. So I was able to reach out and be like, yo, I just saw you're going to be in London from these dates. We're going to be here from these dates. We have an event on a yacht, a little flex. Let me know if you have 45 minutes free. We'd love to do something.
Right. I remember he immediately.
Yeah, it
hit
got
you
right back to me. Like within 5 minutes. It was so
that was
sick.
crazy.
It's like, oh, shit.
This is real.
It's like when you cast a fishing net, you're like, oh, I think I got something.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then, just followed up with his assistant a ton. And even on the day of, because, like, they're super busy. So they're obviously not just, like, communicating with you back and forth every time I send a message. Christian was like, yo, they're coming, right?
We're literally set up, and Dan's, like, on his phone, like, trying to play it cool, but you could tell he was a little skeptical. I'm like, dude.
Yeah,
tell him
we're like, he's
coming.
not going to show up.
We just had these guys drive in 2 hours.
Did I ever say he wasn't going to come, though?
You look skeptical.
But did I ever say he wasn't?
He never
Obviously,
lost
you wouldn't
faith.
say that.
Assumptive close.
Buckets.
Assumptive close.
Works every time.
But yeah, that was the story of how we got Tai Lopez on the podcast. And there's a bunch of other stories because Christian and I ran up a podcast in college and had some pretty big name guests. We didn't even give the premise of this episode. So this episode is super random because Scott is back in town. Scott's our videographer. He's typically behind the camera, but we're bringing him out in front of the camera.
This is my severance package, I
Yeah,
guess.
we can't
Yeah.
afford to pay him anymore, so we're just giving him the spotlight as much as we
Nah,
can.
we fund the podcast by letting people bid for an appearance. So
Scott, he's our Make-A-Wish candidate for this.
Jesus.
he won with the high bid of $110.
But we're just kind of using this as an excuse to pregame for the Post Malone concert in like an hour from now, which is pretty dope. So, Christian, if you want to tell a story of how we got Post Malone's photographer on our podcast back in college.
Thanks, Andre. I will tell that story.
Thank you, sir.
So 4 years ago, we were college students, and we ran a show called Real Talk University. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Google. And me and Andre had a lecture at 8:30 every morning, and we would use the lecture to cold DM or cold email people, 100 people a day, every single day to come on our podcast. Everyone's like, how'd you get big guests like Neil Patel and Brad Lee and, Adam Weitzman and all these guys? And it's because we would send 100 cold DMs a day, and we would get 2 responses, but those 2 people would be huge guests for our show. I remember sitting in the lecture, and Andre's like, yo, Post Malone's photographer just hit me back. He said he's down to come on the show. And I was like, no fucking way. So we sat down with him in Andre's bedroom with a pair of old Beats on our heads.
Wait, in person?
No.
No, it wasn't in my bedroom.
Adam was on a Zoom call.
I'm just picturing you guys just mass DMing people on your bedroom, and you finally get a response, and you like reach over, and you like tap his foot with your foot.
You just
Starts getting a little steamy.
throw the dice on the floor. Quit fucking playing with him.
Nobody, like literally, we may have, if we got 100,000 viewers on this episode,
Quit fucking
I think
playing.
2 people would get that right.
Anyways, Adam DeGrosse comes on the show. He's on a Zoom call in like the locker room of a venue before Post Malone's show. Andre and I interview him. The whole time we're like, is Post going to come on?
Yeah, we were hoping Post was
He
about
didn't
to
come
pop
on,
in.
but 4 years ago at the age of 19 as like sophomores in college, we got Post Malone's personal photographer on the show, and now we're going to a Post Malone show in an hour. It's full circle. We tried to get him back on for an in-person show, and he didn't exactly answer. But that's
yeah, we
okay.
don't have the sauce anymore. We used to have the sauce.
He's a little bit bigger now.
You guys used to do a lot more volume.
I know.
Sounds
I mean,
like 100
now he has like
100 a day.
he has like 500,000 followers.
What
now.
was
Back
that?
then he
What was that lecture
tiny.
about?
Lecture.
The class that you guys did.
I don't
Do you
fucking
even
know.
remember?
I don't remember. It was about cold DMs, baby.
It was some business.
About
class.
cold
Communications.
Oh, we actually had an essay to do in a class, and
That was
instead of
genius.
reading the book, we just interviewed the guy that wrote the book, and we got an A on the
on our
essay.
podcast. And I
Yeah.
remember I had friends that went to the same school of management we went to at our university, and for whatever reason, like different students took the different classes out of order.
Oh, what was
and
his name?
every single one of my friends that went through that class after Christian and I said that the professor always mentioned how some of his students pulled off an interview with the author of this book that he required him to read. So we were like legends in this class.
Not really.
Because we procrastinated an essay that we ended up not writing and instead had the author
.edu
on our
types.
podcast. .edu types.
We gotta do an episode, like a members lounge episode, on just like how we graduated college and just like cutting all the corners possible. I'm waiting for
Yeah.
the statute of limitations to be up.
I mean, that was
There's
a
statute
very
of limitations.
creative way to cut the corner, though. That
I
was-
mean, Dan hired a VA to do his
Chill.
fucking coding class. Didn't you
Thank
get
you,
invited
sir.
to be a TA on that class?
Yeah, I did.
You're really good at this, Dan. You want to be a TA? No.
yeah.
Smart. Right? I was just trying to stimulate the economy in Pakistan, I think it was. But
You paid a guy $4 an hour?
no. That,
You bigot.
Dude, bro, I paid that guy.
He
well.
says he just has you video in, like you don't have like your
It was a
your video
Dude,
on.
that-
He's like,
It was
No,
a
he
few-
don't
remember
it was
you
a
having
few
an
$100
accent.
per test, and that was when I had no money, like none at all.
You asked Ray for a small loan of $1,000.
No, I would like I was. It's so weird how like your mindset shifts. But back then in college, I was perfectly comfortable with like my total checkings plus savings bouncing between like $500 to $1,500.
that's enough for Chipotle.
That's literally your thought process. Like gas is in the tank, Chipotle is in the fucking tummy.
Bro, one
Like,
time
you're
me and
good to
Andre
go.
went to buy cards at Target for $1,000, and I had to ask my mom to put money in my checking account. I didn't have $500.
It's just weird because now
I
if,
had
like,
this Coinbase account with like 10 grand, but I
if
had
you
like
ever
$2
went back
in
to
my
that,
bank
it's just
account.
like DEFCON 5, and you're just like, whoa, this is.
I was DoorDashing heavy,
massive.
boys.
You like couldn't pull it out of the Coinbase account because you're like 16.
I was DoorDashing. One night there was a huge snowstorm, so no one was out. So I just like dusted off my car with like a foot of snow, and did 3 Chipotle orders, made $70. I'm like, that's like so many beers this weekend. I was hyped.
I was over indexing on the S&Me 500.
The S and me. Oh man.
What do you even invest? How do you even invest in yourself when you're that
Expand
age?
your brand.
You
baby.
read affirmations in the morning.
No,
to
you,
yourself in the mirror.
dude, you literally just try to start companies.
You
and fail.
meditate.
That's it.
You meditate during lunch break like Imam Gandhi.
I used to write blogs for $50 a blog, and like it would be a Friday night, we're pre-gaming. I'm like over in the corner writing a blog. Like,
Remember when we wanted to start a gambling company that would help you do online gambling in New York before it was legal by like
you
running
guys would be
like,
so
paper
rich
slips
if
back
it
and
actually
forth?
worked out.
Bro, we met with like
We
remember
literally-
Ray like facilitated a meeting with like the senator in our area
What?
of New York.
No. It wasn't even that, dude. We had a meeting on calendar. It got canceled with the owner of
Tioga Downs.
Tioga Downs, who's a billionaire. He's like one of the largest real estate holders in New York City. We're like 18 years old. We're like freaking. And we got it because our uncle knew a senator or like a guy who was like running for the Senate. And somehow he knew him
Remember
and
we
connected
went to
us.
the government building? We went up to the. Were you with me that time?
Yeah.
We went up to like the conference room and like the senator and his
Yeah.
like assistant came in to meet and ask
And
us
we had
questions
we
about
had
it.
to get the idea validated by a lawyer, and he was like, "Yeah, this checks out. This is sound."
That's
the
why you
idea.
guys like Succession so much.
Yeah, dude, it was so cool, man. Because you're like, I'm in like a fucking polo.
I had to
This
like
is-
leave college early, like class early or something to
What
go
was
to
the
the
idea?
meeting.
Huh?
What was the idea?
It was something that would essentially allow you to vote from your, or not vote from your phone, gamble from your phone
With
before
people,
online gambling
with
was
your
legal.
friends. Instead
It
of
was
doing
legal.
like bets, like handshake bets, and then Venmo me after, it's like if you want to bet
Peer-to-peer
against me
bets.
on a game, peer-to-peer bets.
And you look for people that have the other side. So it'd be like, okay, I want to bet on the Steelers tonight, and this is before online gambling was
That's
legal in
pretty
New
based.
York. I would just find somebody who had the Colts.
so
who
there's
they
no
were playing.
house.
So if you did that now, every sports book in America would just try to crush you.
Yeah, because there's no house.
The idea would have worked, but they were like, listen, all of these casinos and basically everybody in the online gambling space, nobody's going to promote you because they all have deals already locked in place for FanDuel, which was coming in
Yeah.
like 2021, and this was in like 2019.
But the government guys loved
idea,
it
though.
because you got rid of like the big corporations.
But like that's how you invest in the fucking S&P 500. Like I remember being at Starbucks across the street from Miami University where I was at the time and spending like hours writing out a business plan when we thought that was the first set. And I knew like what I was going to do for marketing. I knew what was going to be our first hire. I knew all these things that didn't end up mattering.
Go to every house party in college and be like, "Hey guys, I have this cool betting platform."
oh, what a
I mean, was it not a good
would've
idea?
worked.
Dude,
Yeah.
basically, I didn't meet with a lawyer, but basically the exact same thing happened to me. I was in.
Yo, what's on
it
your
was,
camera now?
Oh, that's just the monitor. It was junior year of high school, and I was in this business immersion program, and we all had to write like a 10-page business plan as a junior in high school.
Yeah.
So like, it's pretty like early
you're
on. I like
17
didn't
you're
really know what
17
I was
years
doing,
old.
but I was like, okay, this makes sense. I was like, they're like, think of a problem that you have, and I was like, well, you know, we all drink a ton of coffee. I was like, okay, whenever I drink coffee, I always burn my tongue because it's just like so hot. So I'm like, I'm gonna come up.
You always bring your what?
I always burn my tongue when I drink coffee.
Just have a
It's
neuro
so
mint,
hot.
brother.
He's like, what if I had like a cold stick that tasted
No,
like fruit
so-
and called it
so
a
I was like,
fucking
well,
popsicle?
caffeine in it.
I was like, well, I can't really solve the burning part, but I can control it with a mug that just controls the temperature. Like, pretty simple, right? And I did all this market research, and there wasn't a mug that did that yet. And you present it to like the two coaches or teachers. They're like, no, that's not going to work. Like, it's not scalable enough. You can't manufacture it, whatever. And I didn't know shit about business yet. So it was just like, oh, okay. And 3 years later, I walk into a Starbucks And the exact product that I wanted to do was
Temperature
acquired
controlled.
by Starbucks, and I looked it up, and they were
What was
acquired
it?
for like $120 million. It's called Ember.
And the
And I'm like,
the teacher that said your idea sucked made it.
I'm like, so that's a valuable lesson to basically just not listen
Professor-
to other
Professor
people.
we should start an incubator. Whenever we hear a good idea, like that sucks. And we
And
just
then
like,
just behind the scenes, rip it.
Yo, write that down.
But same thing, basically. They got acquired by Starbucks for like 120 mil or
That's
something.
damn, bro, you
crazy,
should have just made.
I still don't even understand what the product is. It's essentially just like
It's like a heat control pad for your coffee.
So you can, it's a rechargeable mug.
So an ice
It
pack?
just has a heat element. No, it doesn't cool it down.
It
So what
keeps
you
it
would
at, like, a
do
good
is like,
temperature.
okay, well, like you burn your tongue at a certain temperature when you're drinking it. So you just set it to the temperature you want it, and it keeps it warm.
yeah.
But you recharge it on like this base thing. It just plugs in. It's like
Yeah.
pretty simple, actually.
It's actually a great
But
idea because they serve the coffee extremely hot because it's gonna cool down.
So you don't
And-
drink it until it hits the temperature.
I
yeah,
think they
but then
just
you have like a small window to drink it, and so this keeps it at that temperature the entire time.
Or you could just have a neural mint.
Dude, just
Bro, are
'cause
you
you're
even
sponsored
sponsored
by.
Bro, I got my first payout.
link in
We'll
bio.
drop your affiliate link in the.
What was it,
in
like
the
25
show notes.
cents?
Yeah,
You
everyone
stop
wants to
talking
know
about
how
it.
much did he make from NeuroMint affiliates?
$23.
Oh my god, just retire
For how much
already.
Who's the
product?
most famous number 23?
I made 11 sales, guys.
You made a LeBron.
That's pretty good.
Man,
But what I will say is I get free shipments every month. So I'm chilling.
yeah,
Good for you, man. Happy for you.
I appreciate
But
it.
it's
bro.
so funny how like the market research was such a big part. Now it's the complete opposite. Like you make 10 grand with an offer, and you're like, oh, this is what other people are doing too. That works. Like,
market research is just actually going out into the market and testing it, rather
Well-
than sitting down at a Starbucks and writing out a 10-page
what's the best
paper.
mechanism to validate an offer and do market research?
It's to literally
Cold
go talk to
email.
your customers.
Cold email.
Cold email.
Oh my
Cold
God.
email. Cold email.
How did I not
bro.
think of this? Cold
Jesus
email.
God
Christ.
damn, bro.
God,
You can throw the oop, but if
You can't dunk it.
you can't
I
dunk it
can't. I
yourself,
mean, I
too.
can't dunk.
You
so-
can't dunk it.
Dude, I'm buzzing pretty hard.
Anyways, let's talk about
This cigar's hitting.
Scott Millard, Scoot,
That's me.
Scotty,
Mr. Producer.
Scooter.
Mr. Producer,
Mr.
a man of
Producer.
many names. But you've been off the grid for a little bit.
He's off the grid.
I was off the grid.
Where have you been, sir?
So as we are recording this episode, it's
He's in
currently the
Minnesota.
season of summer. I'm a big living your life in seasons guy. So I took the last 4 or 5 weeks, did the full summer experience. I worked some of the time, not full time, but hit the lake, did some drinking, hung out with family, cut down some trees in Minnesota, Paul Bunyan arc
Did
stuff.
you actually cut down trees?
Yeah.
That's pretty
The
cool.
the last day I was in Minnesota,
How many chops did it
I went
take
up
you to
to
get
it.
it down?
No, it was a chainsaw.
Oh.
I'm not that high T.
Yeah, I was gonna
Do
say.
you have to like hit? Were they
Those
tall
arms
trees?
don't look like tree chopping arms.
We're about to get
That's
so
for
many
you.
hate comments in the YouTube like you're killing the environment.
No, me and Smokey are
All
tight.
the tree lovers.
Me and Smokey are tight.
Oh, okay.
What was the question?
I was asking, like, where have you been? What have you been up to? You've been-
No, I
you've been
answered that. Someone asked something about like.
Let's talk about what there is to do in Minnesota, because like I feel like most
Sure.
people hear Minnesota and they're like, "Oh, that's a state."
I know what you guys like to do in Minnesota.
Cowboy Jacks.
Cowboy Jack.
Nothing.
No, I like
Place sucks.
what's the venue there?
Cowboy Jack.
The Armory?
No, the Armory.
Oh yeah.
That place is
That
sick.
place was sick.
Pretty
Yeah.
base.
So I mean, let's be honest. In the winter, there's nothing to do. Don't go there.
Or
But in
ever,
the summer,
really.
in the
Just don't go
summer,
there.
it's really fun. You go out on the lake, land of 10,000 lakes, right?
the
So
Lakers. Fun fact.
They started in Minnesota.
That's how the Lakers
Really?
got their name.
I didn't even know.
Min-
They're
Minnesota
from
Lakers?
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
That's why they're the Lakers.
There you go.
I was gonna say because that never made any sense. Los Angeles, there's no lakes.
Well, now you know.
Wow. Fun history fact.
That is pretty fun.
We're just educating the
The
masses.
Armory is
through
where they
TikTok.
started.
No, but
No,
continue.
that's-
Actually,
Actually,
The Lakers played at the Armory, yeah. Remember George Mikan? He was like their
dude,
best-
the mic and drill.
Yeah.
Go to each side of the hoop.
Oh,
That should
God.
give me like
I remember doing that.
that gave me
shit.
like what is it? Vertigo. I would just look up at the hoop, I'd look down, be like
anyways.
But yeah,
Fun
go
fact, though.
go on the lake, wake surf.
you know that,
Jet
Lakers?
ski, wakeboard,
What?
Minneapolis.
things like that.
I feel like I knew that, but like I didn't connect the Lakers part.
I knew that they're North Stars before the Wild. That's about it, though.
the hockey team.
Yeah, I'm
popping
not a
in
big
little
sports
Sidney
guy.
Crosby. Excuse me.
If I popped in his in, I would float out of here.
An upper, lower, double decky.
I'm a lower lipper.
I'm a lower lipper too.
You know that kid's
that's
from
right.
Tampa?
Who?
The upper decker
park?
Zinni.
Zenachino.
Freezer
Yeah.
tarps,
Is he
yeah.
He
actually?
went to U Tampa.
Oh, didn't we see him out once?
That
don't know.
that explains
we
that
definitely did
explains
at
a
Big
lot.
Dan's.
My friend Sam knows him. He's like partnered with Pat Maroon on a company now.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Good for him.
Yeah, I remember the last video I saw of him. He was like putting his inside of a fish, letting it into the water. I was like, all right, man.
Well,
Again,
that's
we're
what
just
that's
gonna
what you
get the
do. That's
tree
basically what you do
choppers,
in
the
Minnesota.
animal-
No, that
abuse.
wasn't us. That wasn't us. I stand with PETA.
That's basically what you do in Minnesota.
What was the Theovon clip where he's like, you ever seen what's that movie, like Blackfish or something? What's the movie about SeaWorld?
yeah, blackfish.
With Drewski?
He's like, damn, they can't even let you live underwater, man.
Bro,
listening
that
to-
clip was
Speaking of Theo
floored.
Von, we need a backstory on what happened.
Shut
here.
up.
Oh man, look, man.
We gotta let the people know what's going on. There's a lot of hard work
I
going on.
genuinely
getting
think he's
big
the best
stick podcasts.
podcaster out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely is. So, anyways, yeah,
Whoa,
Theo
whoa,
Von.
whoa.
We all love Theo Von.
Credit where credit is due.
you.
He had an episode today
Second
with
best.
YG. Like
Second
whenever you
best.
watch this, hilarious.
Second best.
I saw a clip. It was funny.
So funny.
The whole show.
Yeah, it was great.
But anyways, yeah, so we're trying to get bigger guests on the podcast, and one of our strategies is because we're in a location like Tampa where a lot of famous people come to perform, whether it be concerts like Post Malone's coming tonight or comedy shows like Theo Von came a couple of weeks ago. We just keep an eye on when these events are happening, and when we see they're coming to town, we just reach out. And so for Theo Von, we actually went really hard on that one. We were just reaching out to like the people that produce his podcast, his team, his managers, him on all the different platforms. And it was actually a cool story because I put it out on Twitter, and then one of the guys that follows me on Twitter said his producer of his podcast actually became the producer by sending Theo a cold email. And so he's like, if you send a cold email to the producer saying that you do cold email, he'll probably relate to that and then connect you to Theo. And so I did. He sent me to a different guy's email address, which I sent an email to. And I was like, there's this beautiful Cathedral cigar lounge in Tampa, like 5 minutes from where Theo's performing 3 nights in a row. So you got to look for like all the different leverage points. Theo's here for 3 nights in a row. What is he going to be doing in Tampa for 4 days, right?
Coming here without us.
Coming here. So anyways, yeah, we didn't end up getting him on. He like just said he wasn't available, whatever. And then we see Saturday morning, which is when we always record Stick Talk podcast episodes. That weekend we didn't have a guest lined up, so we weren't recording. And funny enough, we go on Instagram, and guess who's recording?
No, I got a call.
Who's recording?
I got a call from the manager of this place, and she goes, "Hey, did you see who was at Cathedral today?" I'm like, "No." She
At
goes,
11 a.m. when you guys
"Theo
usually
Von."
record
I'm
your
like,
podcast
"Oh my
every
God,
weekend.
Kill myself.
Yeah. So,
With
anyways,
another guest we're trying to get.
With our neighbor. Ric
With our
Flair.
literal neighbor who I see like every week.
Ric Flair.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to get the nature boy on.
Yeah, he'll be coming on for sure.
Woo!
He'll be coming on for sure. But that's so crazy
That's
because
pretty good.
That's
Bro,
really good.
it had
We'll have
to
to
be
clip that.
manifested by our outreach because there's no way they would have knew of the members lounge.
It wasn't
at
manifested. They
this
just
niche-
read it and ripped our shit.
All right, sure, yeah.
Astrology girls are so over the top,
Manifested.
bro.
There's
So unoriginal.
These 333
She goes,
times.
"Oh,
wow.
they saw on Google reviews that this was the best place in
So-
Tampa." I'm like, "No, they read Andre's email." And
So
ripped
I
our
told
whole
them to go to
flow,
this
bro.
place because it's great for podcasting, and
At
they
this
must
specific
have
time when
manifested
it's
it.
quiet. Literally in the email, it's like upstairs members lounge at this time on Saturdays because no one's there and it's quiet. And that's exactly what they did, but without us.
And they got
So-
Hulk Hogan on.
And they got Hulk Hogan on. Hey, brother. So, yeah, that was pretty tragic. But we made an effort. We ended up talking to him for a couple of minutes at the Edition Hotel
Someone
one of
had
the
a pair
nights.
of balls.
Huh?
Because someone approached him. I don't know.
Oh, go ahead.
So
Talk your shit, boy.
Theo was at the first of all, not trying the nicest hotel in town. We all know that everybody stays there when there's a fancy, comedy show, concert going on, whatever. I wasn't stalking him. I'm like, he's gonna be staying here, so I'm gonna camp out there.
And we live across the
I
street.
wasn't stalking him, but I'm gonna camp out there.
You
And
shouldn't
we
use
live
the
across the
term
street,
camp
too,
out,
so.
bro. Just say
I just
you were
sat,
hanging out.
I sat at the hotel that he was staying at all of
This
Saturday.
dude's he's in a tent like outside the hotel.
Fucking steak
And
house.
the whole time that I was
Eating the PB&J with
To
the
be
black
fair,
doors.
Sleeping bag.
you can see the
Can I
entrance
talk?
from your balcony.
Yeah.
Let him,
be fair.
So the whole
let him
time
cook.
that he was here, I was at the hotel he was staying at trying to see him. And meanwhile,
Camping.
the one place that we could have met him, we weren't there. So, AKA where we're sitting right now, he was in the room next to us filming a podcast with Ric Flair. And yeah, so we saw him later that night after a show at the hotel. I'm like, hey man, you were at how'd you like the cigar bar? He's like, oh, how'd you know I was there? I'm like, oh, well, I'm a member there, and we usually record a podcast there. And the one time that we don't film on Saturdays, you were there. He's like, oh, brother, I'm sorry. And then I'm like, should I say what happened next?
He was
You have
like,
to get into the full impersonation.
No, I was like,
yeah, you should say what happens next. She's not gonna listen. What are you talking about, bro?
so I was like, oh, you met the blonde bartender, Grace? He was like, yeah, I did, brother. And I'm like, I heard the story. He's like, I'm like, yeah, I heard you wanted to take her on tour with you. You liked her. He's like, oh man, I did. So I was like, yeah, I had a crush on her back in the day, and
he got all quiet. You hear this?
I'm
I
like,
know. He's like seeing if she's walking
I'm
around
like,
the corner.
she's also on shift right now. So I'm like, it didn't work out. And he's like, he sat me down. And he's like, tell me about it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have a conversation with Theo. And I was like, yeah, like slow played it for a while, got her number, friend zone. He's like, dude, I feel for you, bro. And we had a great conversation. And then these guys come in like, oh, Theo, what's up, man? Like, hey. I'm like, oh, okay.
That wasn't it.
The funniest thing about him is he's like the exact same in person as he's on stage.
Yeah, he was like, what's your podcast again? I'm like, StickTalk. He goes, StickTalk. What is that, some hockey shit? Like, no, cigars. He's like, okay. Okay, bro.
I showed him the
Scott,
setup
you got
and
a
everything.
Theo impression for us?
Not on the spot.
Okay.
But
Wait, what
Maybe.
impression did you say you were going to do on the podcast?
now you're just throwing me under the bus.
We're really putting him on the spot.
No, I swear, I thought I saw a text from you saying you're going to do an impression.
I think it was Theo.
I feel like for Theo's impression,
I've been
it's all,
known
it's
to
all
do-
about like the story you tell.
Yeah, it's kind of like more like what you say.
Yeah, it's like, listen,
Like
man,
what
we
Andre
had
was
this kid
saying.
in
Like
in my
what,
neighborhood.
what is that, brother? Some hockey shit.
We had this kid in my neighborhood named Pookie. He used to smoke cigars.
We was
by
growing up.
taking a dried leaf and stuff and some geese poop in it. Man, he could fly. Like it's just like going off on super random tangents.
Such a talent.
Such a talent, dude. Best podcaster in the game right now. I was like hysterically laughing, eating lunch, listening to him.
Ooh, we could talk a little bit about podcast strategy because that's super interesting. So Theo, like best podcaster in the game right now, his podcast was not in the top 10 for the longest time. And then one of his episodes he put on Spotify or YouTube and they took it down because he was probably talking about like COVID or something. And so he put it on Twitter because he wanted people to hear this podcast that he did. And the full-length episode on Twitter got more views than like the most views that a podcast would get on somewhere like Spotify. And so instantly, because he posted one long-form episode on Twitter, his podcast on Spotify and all the other podcast platforms shot up to like 2 or 3, right behind Rogan and some of these other podcasters. So it's really interesting to see how like Elon with Twitter or X or whatever he calls it now is creating the platform to like house longer form content. And so that's something we're trying to do with StickTalk. We have the StickTalk clips page on Twitter now, and we just got the blue check mark so that we could post our full episodes and shoot up the charts right below Theo.
Because even though 98% of people are just going to click on and like click off just because it's not a great platform to sit there for an hour, hour and a half, they're going to go to YouTube,
Whatever
they're going to go to
platform,
Spotify,
yeah.
they're going to go to whatever, what's like more conducive for long form
Top of
content.
funnel.
Yeah.
Also,
Same thing happened to Tucker.
I was going to say Tucker's crazy.
What are your guys' thoughts on X?
The naming convention.
Just everything, like the way he's transitioned it over. Personally,
Terrible.
I don't like it yet. I feel like it's gonna go away in like a week, but like every time I swipe down, I'm like searching for Twitter.
You know
Like-
you know the history though.
Yeah, I know the history. It was started in
Elon's
like
sus as
1999.
fuck,
He's been
boy.
trying to work on it forever. He
That's
wanted
what the
PayPal
history is. He's
to be
sus
named
as
X,
fuck.
and then also like the bottom bar going down or going away when
It
you
goes
scroll
away,
down.
and I'm always like,
What?
it's so annoying.
So if you go on Twitter
Yeah.
and you
Like
scroll
the
down,
iOS bar.
the bottom bar that goes like home notifications.
They want
goes
you to
away.
see
Direct
more
messages.
posts in the feed.
That's interesting that he's
super
even.
annoying. You have to swipe
Do
back
you,
up to
do
get
you
it.
think he's allowed to
Like
do
this.
that? Like,
Yeah, it's terrible.
because there's usually like guidelines for having an app. I would highly doubt that having, you have to like agree to like terms of service or whatever when you publish an app. Like I would highly doubt that's like allowed.
What's
What?
allowed?
Taking away that iOS bottom bar thing.
Oh,
you're in
no,
an
it's,
app.
No,
it's in the app.
It's in the app. So it's like when you scroll down on the app, you can't press anywhere else. You have to keep scrolling. You can't navigate to like notifications or elsewhere.
Oh,
It's
hard to
only
explain.
for you
oh,
and
got
following.
you.
Like you see this bar,
Yeah.
and then when I scroll, it disappears.
Oh, okay.
This is also like terrible for podcasting just because it's all visual and
Yeah.
not at all
And it's
audio.
super
Or not at all
irrelevant.
audio, not at all visual.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the X is pretty dope.
Nope.
You don't like it?
Nope.
I think the Knowledge X logo was
Nope.
cooler.
Guy's been reading a lot of
Drew Tang.
yeah on Twitter.
Well, all you have to
Oh,
know,
I'm sorry, on the X.
What's up? What's up with?
all you have to know is Elon's new CEO is a former World Economic Forum member. So
All right, let's hear the conspiracy
That's where
theory.
I'll
Go
leave
for
it.
it.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
I didn't actually read the entire thread, but basically his obsession.
Classic. See, this is the problem. People just look at the headline and they're like, "Oh, conspiracy."
What's the whole story?
They
Like,
heard 3 seconds of the UFO hearing. They're like, aliens are real. They're here.
no, I literally think that hearing was to cover up some shit, as always. I don't feel like going down that
All right,
road.
let's
Christian,
put the
you have the
tinfoil hat
floor.
on. I want to hear that.
I didn't read enough on it to be educated enough to talk about it, so I'm not.
See, that's respect.
That's some self-awareness right
That's
there. Let's get it. Let's clap it up real quick.
That's respect. Because most people would just go down the rabbit hole of trying to explain something they don't understand.
All I'm gonna say is I don't trust Elon. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's fair. Totally fair.
I love
think
Did you
Elon.
see the thing he did with the sign in San Francisco?
That was
on
pretty
the,
based.
on the headquarters.
that was based?
The government's like, please, sir, take it down.
All you need to know is he wants to keep the HQ in fucking San Francisco.
I also thought that
Worst
was a
city in
based decision.
America,
Did you
bro.
see his tweet
Worst city in
explaining why?
America.
Yeah, but what if you have all of your top team members already in San Francisco? That's a tough task to move them all.
What?
Dude, it's
And
just a
he
location.
has
What do
already-
you mean what? That's
If you
like-
said
has
I'm gonna move
moved-
to Tampa, they'd be like, all right.
But he has moved
I don't know.
his.
He fired like 90% of the employees when he took over.
Do you think he fired the head of every department?
I don't know. I don't know.
but he's
Probably not.
moved his
That's- I mean,
other.
that's-
He's
He
moved
moved
his
the
other
Gigafactory to
facilities.
Texas.
Yeah. So like.
Yeah. Oh, hey guys, we're moving HQ to Tampa. Move with us or you're fired. What are they gonna say?
But why? Like, what's the benefits? Like,
They're gonna hop over to Google. They're gonna hop
Francisco
over to
sucks.
Meta. Like these are very talented people. It's not really easy to just pick them up.
yeah,
and
the
drop 'em
people
across
that
the country.
want to work for those types of companies are in Silicon Valley.
I mean, yeah.
Decreasingly less and less. Like I agree that it's getting spread out more, but there's still primarily over there.
There's also still good areas. I was just talking to a guy last week who.
No, but
lives
Elon's
there.
like saying, "Oh, move here to work in San Francisco." Like, fuck that. Place sucks.
What's the good
All right.
areas?
So all we've learned is that Christian isn't gonna work for Twitter. Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I was just saying that. I mean, like, yes, but like in every city, I mean, there's bad areas. I was just talking to a guy last week who lives in that area, and you know, he's like, yeah, I mean, some parts are still beautiful, but obviously,
Yeah.
you know, every big city, it's just a big city thing.
It's like New York
it
City, dude.
happens
New York
everywhere.
City is booming right now.
Yeah, there's places in New York City that
That
are
are
like,
terrible.
you would not go.
San Francisco fell off a cliff, bro. It used to be so sick.
Anyways,
Anyways, let's go back to seasons of life. I feel like that's a really good topic.
we got like a couple more minutes left, anyways.
Yeah, we have an important meeting
We got
at
like
6:30.
we got a meeting at 6:30 with the CTO of X. It's a pregame at Christian's apartment.
and yours.
Nah, I'm
he's
disowning that. It's around.
Can't be late to our own pregame. That's just
We
Not-
could. That's kind of a alpha move there.
well. Some people have short attention spans. They're
all right.
just
So
gonna leave.
what's our last topic gonna be?
So let's just talk about where the podcast is going and kind of what we have planned for the rest of the year. So, like I
We're
was getting
moving to
into-
San Francisco.
We're moving to San Francisco.
I quit.
I've had enough. Living off my neural affiliates.
You're That was good. That was good. That was good. That would be a funny prank.
That would be such a good prank. We just rent an Airbnb in San Francisco. We're
Well,
like,
we'd be near Steph
Thanks,
Curry,
Christian.
so that's a plus.
You think he lives in San Francisco?
He lives right outside, probably. The arena's in San Francisco.
True. Other than moving to San Francisco, plans for the podcast, right? So obviously we want to get bigger guests, and we're making big efforts behind the scenes to make that happen. Like just keeping an eye on who's coming to Tampa for different events, and then we're also doing a bunch of traveling between now and the end of the year. We're having
Dave,
a big event in Tampa, and the big guests aren't listening right now, dude.
I'm just manifesting.
clip it. He's manifesting.
All right.
Like you said, every
I can't.
person does. when
Dave
they're reading
Portnoy,
it.
come on the show, bro. We'll talk about brick watches. You need some more brick watch publicity. High Noon, the Barstool Fund, all of it on the show in person in Saratoga at the Parting Glass, who got Barstool funding. Just saying.
It's a good pitch. You can tell he practiced that one.
Yeah, that was
That's
good.
good. That's good.
My video pitch was fire. I don't know why it didn't.
It was good. It was good.
It was.
It's just because you
quality.
didn't exchange anything. You're like, let me make you an offer, and you're like,
Dave
come
will
on the
donate
podcast.
$1,000 to the Barstool Fund.
It's got to be more.
10 grand.
All right, 10's fair.
I don't want to invest.
I would
10
do 10 if it's a
CFO
fucking
going.
tax write-off.
Why is everyone looking at me, bro?
You paying, bro?
Yeah, I'll pay for a third of it.
So, guys, the link is in
we're
the
definitely
bio
firing
for our
Scott.
GoFundMe to get Dave Portnoy on the podcast.
If Dave comes on for 10 G's, Scott's out of here, bro.
Yeah, this is my severance episode.
Yeah.
Publicity.
But yeah, big guests on the podcast. We're blowing up our YouTube channel with a bunch of clips from past episodes, which we've been getting a lot of good feedback on. Like just clipping up long episodes into like 3 to 5 to 10-minute clips, pushing traffic back to the full episodes. So we're just making a big effort, a big push to do the podcast. And that's really it. I think one thing that's super interesting, people kind of ask like, what's the goal of the podcast? And like my honest answer is it's just fun. And we have Client Ascension, which we do as like our main business, that has its benefits with like cash flow and that supports like our lifestyle and whatnot. We have ListKit, which is the exit play for us. It's the SaaS or software business we're running. And then we have the podcast, which we were hanging out with some kid that you met on Twitter, and he was like, oh, so is the podcast like the only business you run? I'm like, it's not a business. Like, it's on the side.
Whenever people from that don't know our business talk to me, they're like, oh, like the podcast, that's your business. I'm like, no.
No.
I've
We
been
just
I
do it for
wish.
fun.
I'm
Like,
living in
you
a
think
shack.
that makes money?
Yeah. We don't make money from the podcast.
We don't make UGC over
But if you want
here.
us to one day make money, please like, subscribe, comment,
Yeah.
comment once, comment twice.
Actually, seriously, we put a lot of time and a lot of money, selfishly, of course, because we really do enjoy the podcast. But at the same time, to keep it going, YouTube ad revenue is not going to cut it. I think we've made like $300 from YouTube.
Balling.
Yeah, from YouTube payouts, which is actually not that bad for a small channel in like 2 months of putting it out. But that got carried by Bailey's episode and Ty's episode. So decent payout, but
It's also
not gonna.
technically like a negative 10,000% ROI so far.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So the podcast, we pay to have fun, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
Well,
basically.
we're gonna go pregame Post Malone. Enjoy the show. Hope
Wait,
you guys enjoyed this
Christian,
show.
wait. What's your favorite Post Malone song?
Take What You Want, featuring Ozzy Osbourne.
Scott,
Congratulations.
Gold flakes.
up there. That's it.
That's the
the
show.
end of the episode.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. See y'all on the next one. Peace.